الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. In 2 weeks time the class will be starting inshallah 8:30. So in 2 weeks time the class will be starting 8:30, not after the Maghrib. So remember and remind the others as well. And we straight away we go to the Adab Al-Mufrad. For today we're going to be discussing the Hadeeth of Jurayj. It's a great Hadith. We're going to extract as many benefit as possible regarding that the time is at the moment catching up, and time is Isha? 10:25. Well, we're about to make it, just about. Bi-idhnillah. Right, okay, we'll start with the Hadith, and it's Hadith in your book, Hadith number 33. Hadith, and it's under the chapter which is Babu Da'watil Walidain. That is the chapter regarding the supplication of the parents. How important the supplication of the parents, whether it is for you or against you. Supplication of the parents. So it is the importance of that, and we discussed already the hadith which was before, 3 supplications that will be fulfilled. One of them is the supplication of the 2 parents, the father and the mother. Because the person who has a supplication of the father and the mother, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would fulfill it. So try to make your father and your mother all the time supplicate for you, not against you. So let's just talk about hadith number 33. Go ahead, read please.
Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, no human child has ever spoken in the cradle except for Isa ibn Maryam, peace be upon him, and the associate of Jurayj.
Right. This hadith was narrated with more wordings to it and addition to it in Sahih al-Imam Muslim, where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, there are 3 children spoke in the cradle. So here he's mentioning 2, Isa alayhi salam and the companion of Jurayj. So in the other hadith which is in Sahih al-Imam Muslim, there are 3 people who spoke in the cradle. So we're gonna in a minute inshallah, after we finish the hadith in Sahih Al-Adab Al-Mufrad. هذا ضعيف قوي.
لا عندكم بس لكن
النساء يتكلموا كثيرا. Right. So the supplication of the parents. Now we're going to discuss the hadith in more details from Sahih al-Imam Muslim, inshallah, after we finish the hadith quotation from Al-Adab Al-Mufrad. So we're going to tell the brother to continue while we are listening to him. So again, as Prophet ﷺ, he said, nobody spoke in the cradle except for Isa ibn Maryam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the companion of Jurayj. Go on. It was said, yes.
The Prophet of Allah was asked sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who was the associate of Jurayj? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Jurayj was a monk who lived alone in his hermitage. There was a cowherd who used to take shelter at the foot of his hermitage. And a woman from the village used to come to the cowherd. One day his mother came and called Jurayj while he was praying. He asked himself, my mother or my prayer? He thought that he should prefer the prayer. She shouted to him a second time, and he asked himself, my mother or my prayer? He thought that he should prefer the prayer. She shouted a third time, and again he asked himself, my mother or my prayer? He thought that he should prefer the prayer. When he did not answer her, she said, Jurayj, may Allah not let you die until you have looked in the face of the harlots. Then she left. Then the village woman was brought to the king after she had given birth to a child. He asked, who is it? She replied, Jurayj. He asked, the man in the hermitage? She answered, yes. He ordered, destroy his hermitage and fetch him to me. His hermitage was hacked down with axes until it collapsed. Jurayj's hand was bound to his neck with a rope, and he was dragged along and paraded through the district of the harlots. He saw them and smiled. They were staring at him along with the other people. The king said, "Do you know what this woman claims?" He asked. What does she claim? He said, "She claims that you are the father of her child." He asked her, "Is this what you claim?" "Yes," she replied. Then he asked, "Where is the child?" They replied, "It is the one who is in her lap." He turned to the child and asked, "Who is your father?" He said, "The cowherd." The king said, "Shall we build your hermitage out of gold?" He replied, "No." He asked, "Of silver?" He answered, "No." The king asked, "Then of what shall we make it?" He said, "Put it back the way it was." The king then asked, "What made you smile?" He said, "Something that I knew. My mother's supplication overtook me." Then he told him about it.
Right. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Now the hadith, as I said, was narrated in a more narration and more explanation in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Imam Muslim. And we're going to be narrating now in Arabic and also the translation of it in English. The hadith in Sahih Imam Muslim numbering 6673. And that is الحديث starts from أبو هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لم يتكلم في المهد إلا ثلاثة عيسى بن مريم وصاحب جريج وكان جريج رجلا عابدا. That is, there is nobody had spoken in the cradle except for three. Isa ibn Maryam, Isa the son of Maryam, and we don't say Maryam alayhi salam, Maryam radiyallahu anha, because she is not a prophet or a prophetess. She is a righteous woman. And alayhi salam is only designated to whom? To the prophets, peace be upon her, or peace be upon him. So be careful when you say Maryam or Ali alayhi salam. We don't say Ali alayhi salam. This is what the Rawafid says. Ali, we don't say Ali radiyallahu anhu. We don't say Ali al-Imam, Ali karramallahu wajha, Ali radiyallahu sallallahu alayhi wasallam. All of that form the explanations or the expressions of the Rawafid. No, we don't follow the Rawafid, the Shia. Coming back, so except for three, Isa ibn Maryam, Sahibu Jurayj, companion of Jurayj, the boy at the time of Jurayj, and Jurayj was Rajulan Abida. And then he started talking about Jurayj and his story, and then later on he comes talking about the third son or child who had spoken in the cradle. Let's talk about Isa ibn Maryam sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. First of all, you need to know that Isa ibn Maryam was the last prophet of the Bani Israel. And he was the last prophet before the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Any ahadith that mentions that there is prophets, there are prophets between Isa alayhi salam and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam are to be unauthentic. Any ahadith that mention that there are prophets between the Prophet of Allah and Isa alayhi salam to be unauthentic. So he was the last and the most famous, one of the famous prophets of Bani Israel, him and Musa alayhi salam. He was the last prophet of Bani Israel and the last prophet before the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and also is going to come later on as a prophet, but following the Prophet of Allah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his time is to come yet. Now, after that, we need to know that Isa alayhi salam was a sign of Allah in the way that he was created and the way that he was delivered by his mother. In the way that he was created, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent Jibreel alayhi salam to Maryam radiyallahu anha, may Allah be pleased with her. That is, and that جبريل تمثل لها بشرا سويا فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا. That we have sent to her Jibreel alayhi salam, our ruh, Jibreel, sometimes it's called the ruh. فتمثل لها بشرا سويا. He came to her as a human being. Then she said, قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا. I seek refuge in Allah, in the Rahman, if you are a person who is a righteous man. قال إنما أنا رسول ربك. Verily I am the messenger of your Lord. لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. So I could grant you, by the permission of Allah, a ghulam, a boy, child, zakiyya, purified. قالت يقول لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أكن بغيا. How can I have a child? And nobody had touched me. No male had intercourse with me. And I'm not a harlot. I'm not a prostitute. قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين. It is easy for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of doing everything. And وَلِنَجْعَلَهُ آيَةً لِلنَّاسِ. And we're going to make him as a sign for the people. وَرَحْمَةً مِنَّا. And a mercy from us. وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا. And this was being decreed and ordained by Allah already. Then فَحَمَلَتْهُ فَانْتَبَذَتْ بِهِ مَكَانًا قَصِيًّا. We're talking about the signs of the creation of Isa alayhi salam, and it was miraculous. When she had the pregnancy, Jibreel alayhi salam blew into her, and that blow became, by the permission of Allah, to be a child fetus in the womb. And the Mufassirun, the interpreters of the Quran, they said that he was growing in the mother, that is Maryam, may be Allah be pleased with her, in a way which is not the normal child is growing, which is 9 months. So it is like, she grown very quickly. And also that she had to go somewhere because the people were going to ask her, what is happening here? They're going to see the pregnancy. And so that she went left. And because she left, that she even told the people, I'm not going to talk. I have vowed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to speak to anyone. فَأَجَلَهَا الْمَخَاضُ إِلَى جِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ. That is, the woman, when she's about to deliver, now her pregnancy, when she delivers, she's going to have this makhad. Makhad means she's delivering the baby. And she was next to the trunk of a palm tree. إِلَى جِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ. قالت يا ليتني مت. She said, oh Lord, I wish that I'm dead. I'm dead قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا. Before this happening, and I was being forgotten. Now, you need to know, Maryam did not wish to be dead. She wished that this will not take place for her until she's dead. She does not wish for death, but she does not wish for this to take place, that is the pregnancy and delivering the baby, until she dies. Then فناداها من تحتها. He had called her from underneath. ألا تحزني قد جعل ربك تحتك سريا. There's a recitation in the Quran which is شاذة, not authentic, where it says قد جعل ربك تحتك سريا. And some of the Palestinians, they speak in this accent, which is ربك تحتك سريا, which is not really authentic, as I said, from the قراءة الشاذة ال14. قال وهزي إليك بجذع النخلة وهزي إليك بجذع النخلة تساقط عليك رطبا جنيا. So now we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made him a sign in the way that he was in the womb of his mother. He's a sign also when he was delivered. That is, this woman, that is Maryam, she's at the moment next to the trunk of the palm tree, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ. Now, you shake the trunk of the tree. First of all, you need to know the woman, when she's in such situation, she's what? Very weak. She can't even move herself, never mind to move a tree. And now Allah is asking her to move what? The trunk, not the top of the tree. The trunk of the tree. Can you imagine? Have you been to a palm tree? I don't even know the palm tree. I think about 10 of you can't move anything of it. Push it, can't push it. وَهُزِّ إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ تُسَاقط. That is, it will come to you رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا تُسَاقط عَلَيْكِ رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا. Now, the people who know, they collect the dates, they know that if they have shaken the tree from the top, and the dates had fallen onto the floor, it will collapse. It will be no use. They have to get it what? With a basket. If it falls down, because it's high, there's no use of it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a miracle for her, that she could shake it while she's there. And this date will come, and it will be as well a food for her. We understand from this that the date is a food. Prophet ﷺ said, بَيْتٌ لَيْسَ فِيهِ تَمْرٌ أَهْلُهُ جِيَاعٌ. A house has got no dates in it, the household of it, the members of the family of that house are hungry. They have dates. And that is why a person who's got, for example, cupping. You know what's cupping? Hijama. that is after the hijama, the best thing is to eat dates that will produce blood again. Dates, Prophet ﷺ was his food. Prophet ﷺ and the companions, they had all the time the aswadan. You know what's the aswadan? The two blacks? Date and water. Date and water, date and water, date and water. All the time. All the time. One of the companions, when he had a person as a guest, he asked another person to go and get from his mother some food. So she brought 3 breads made of barley with some oil, I don't know what type of oil it is, and salt. When he saw that, he said, Allahu Akbar! He said, change, you have been all the time on the aswadan. There's water and dates, water and dates. Alhamdulillah, alladhi ashba'ana min al-khubs. Allah, alhamdulillah, that had given us satisfaction from what? From the bread. And bread is made of barley. And you only give it to animals for these days. You don't give it to yourself. Barley. You take it from the wheat, not the barley. But these people, subhanAllah, those are the ones who conquered the land and conquered the hearts of the people. Companions, may Allah be pleased with them. Going back, so we know from this verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this miraculous birth of Isa alayhi salam, and as soon as she given birth to him, now we continue the story, where فَأَتَتْ بِهِ قَوْمَهَا تَحْمِلُ, and put it from Surah Maryam. That is, she brought him to her family, to the people. يَا مَرْيَمُ لَقَدْ جِئْتِ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا. They said, oh Maryam, you brought something which is a fornication. أعوذ بالله, فاحشة. How can you bring such a thing? And then, يا أخت هارون ما كان أبوك امرأ سوء وما كانت أمك بغية. Verily, your abuk, your father, you are the sister of Harun. Sister of Harun, not sister in blood. That means you come from that noble lineage, which is Musa alayhi salam and Harun and all of that. And then he said, your father was not a bad man, nor your mother was a harlot. It shows us that the fornication, if it takes place, it runs in the family. If the father and the mother fornicators, then the children will be produced more likely to be what? Fornicators. And that's why they said, how can you be a prostitute yourself when your father and your mother, they were not, and you come from a noble lineage? You're an offspring of a noble lineage. You cannot be bringing this baby. How do you bring this baby? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made her to tell them, look, فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. She pointed to him. Ask him. Yeah, I have no power. فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. قالوا كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا. As a sign of scorning her and taking the mic. What are you talking about? Are we going to talk to a child who's in the cradle? Can't even say, we're going to speak to him. قال إني عبد الله. Now Isa alayhi salam is miraculously speaking when he is in the cradle. قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا وبرا بوالدتي ولم يجعلني جبارا شقيا والسلام علي يوم ولدت ويوم أموت ويوم أبعث حيا. All of these sentences being spoken by Isa alayhi salam. 7 sentences spoken by Isa alayhi salam when he is in the cradle. Translation of which, قال إني عبد الله, I am the slave of Allah. أتاني الكتاب, he gave me the book. وجعلني نبيا, and he made me to be a prophet. وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت, and he made me to be a blessed wherever I am. وأوصاني بالصلاة, and he had counseled me and recommended me and to do the prayer. والزكاة, and the zakah. ما دمت حيا, as long as I'm alive. وبرا بوالدتي, and to be dutiful to my mother. ولم يجعلني جبارا شقيا, and he did not make me to be a tyrant. And والسلام علي يوم ولدت, and peace be upon me, the day I was born. ويوم أموت, and the day when I will die. And ويوم أبعث حيا, when I resurrect as a live person. So here we understand that Isa alayhi salam, he had spoken, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of making this issue, that is producing a child without a father, like he produced who without a mother? Huh? Without a mother. That's without a father and a mother, Adam alayhi salam. But without a mother. Who has been produced without a mother? Put your finger up if you know. Huh? Adam He was produced by no father and no mother, from mud. But who was produced by a father and no mother? Hawa. Hawa. She was produced from the rib, the highest rib of the bones. So she had a father, but she had no mother. And Adam was born with no father and no mother. إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَى عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ آدَمَ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. The similarity of Isa alayhi salam, for those people who can't understand it, is like Adam alayhi salam. He made him from dust, from clay. And then he said to him, be, and there he was. So you're having difficulty about understanding the birth of Isa alayhi salam without a father. And I'm talking to most people who are Christians. They say, miraculously. Well, we have, which is more miraculous? A person was born without a father, or a person without a mother, or without a father and mother. If we put them in the rank. Difficult one, no father and mother. Second one, without a mother. Because the one has got womb. So he could produce somebody in the womb. But this, Hawa, she came with no womb. She came from the rib. Adam did not put her in her belly. She came out. She came from the bone. That's more miraculous. So those people, they don't know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable as well of making the animals to speak. That is on the day of resurrection, and even in this, as Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said after he was delivering his Fajr prayer, there was a man, he was making the cow and he's loading the cow and using it for like loading, using it like the camel and the horse. So the cow looked at him and she said, "Inna la nukhlaq li hada." We were not created for this purpose. Khuliqna lil harth. We were created to plow the land, to milk, but not to use us as a horse and a camel. The people who were listening, and I'm sorry about that, and the people who were listening, they said, Subhanallah, بقرة تتكلم كلام الإنس. Baqarah, cow speaking like a human being. Prophet ﷺ said, إني أؤمن بهذا وأبو بكر وعمر وما هما بثم. Verily I believe in this. And also Abu Bakr and Umar, even though they are not present amongst you, if they were here they would believe straight away. They would say Subhanallah. Huh? Subhanallah. Some of the hypocrites may be there. Huh? Subhanallah. How can it be? There are hypocrites who pretend to be companions. They don't believe it. How can it be? Of course, you will know before the day of resurrection, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that your thigh will speak to you and will tell you what your wife she's been doing behind your back. Your thigh. I'm speaking to my thigh. Wallah. And you'll be speaking to your shoes. And the Prophet ﷺ, there is a wolf speaking to mankind. It happened at the time of the Prophet of Allah, and it will happen later on as well. The wolf, whom the shepherd was looking after the flock of the sheep, and he just saw a sheep and captured it. The shepherd straight away got the sheep out of his teeth and pulled it away. So the wolf sat down on its tail and looked at the shepherd and he said, "Why did you take away a provision which Allah had given me?" Imagine. The shepherd, he was shocked. He went to the Prophet ﷺ telling him, nobody would believe it except for the Prophet of Allah. If somebody, were you mad? You talking about wolf telling you this? The Prophet ﷺ said, gathered, Salatu Jamia, people come. Everybody came and they told him. And that is why he said to him, ذِئْبٌ مُقْعٍ عَلَى ذَيْلِ يُكَلِّمُنِي كَلَامَ الْإِنسِ. A wolf sitting on his tail talking to me like a human being. Why? لِمَنْ تَزَعْتَ مِنِّي رِزْقًا رَزَقَنِيَهُ اللَّهُ. Allah Akbar. Why? You only put out a provision Allah has given me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the day of resurrection, He will ask your limbs to speak. The earth will testify. يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ أَخْبَارَهَا بِأَنَّ رَبَّكَ أَوْحَى لَهَا. It will testify for every person or against the person. This earth, it will speak. The stone will speak. And the time when we fight, if you remember, and what does the stone say? I'm not going to say anything. You know what I'm talking about. Pause. Right. Coming back to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. قال عيسى عليه السلام spoke in the cradle وصاحب جريج. This is our story now, the companion of Jurayj. And for this issue, Al-Imam al-Bukhari in the Adab al-Mufrad, he puts it under the chapter Da'watul Walidayn, the supplication of the mother. Listen, and I'm quoting now from Sahih al-Imam Muslim, not from the Adab al-Mufrad. قال وصاحب جريج وكان جريج رجلا عابدا. In the other narration he says راهبا. Rahib is always a phrase or a sentence or a title given to a priest. So it was Christian. So he's not Jewish, Christian. وكان راهبا. But Jurayj, when Christian, he was a Muslim. He was submitting himself to the Lord, which is the true Christianity. Not the Christianity of Mr. Paul. You know the Christianity of Mr. Paul? This is not Christianity, this is shirk. About Christianity, which is Islam. قال وكان جريج رجلا عابدا فاتخذ صومعة. He took a صومعة. صومعة is like a deir, what is a deir? Monastery. A monastery for worshipping. قال فكان فيها فأتته أمه. He was in it. His mother, she came to him. وهو يصلي. And he was praying. The prayer was at the time of Isa alayhi salam, and that's why every time something happened, Isa, what does he do? Like that? Does he do that? I mean, for the sisters, like, does he go in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost? Like this? What does he do? He falls on his head, prostrate. And that's in their book, not our book. He falls on his head. So which one is closer to the prayer of Isa alayhi salam? Us as Muslims, or those who say like this? Triangle. What type of worship is that? Right, coming back. قال فقال ربي أمي وصلاتي. He said, Lord, what should I do? Should I continue my prayer, or should I respond to my mother? فأقبل على صلاته. He went to his prayer. Now فانصرفت. She left. فلما كان من الغد, the following day, she came to him. So the other one says 1, 2, 3, and this one is what? Day after day. فلما كان من الغد وهو يصلي. She said, جريج. فقال ربي أمي وصلاتي. Which one shall I fulfill? My mother or the prayer? So he went in with his prayer. فأقبل على صلاة. So she left. فلما كان من الغد, this is the third day, she came to him. أتته وهو يصلي. فقال يا جريج. فقال يا ربي أمي وصلاتي. Which one shall I fulfill? My mother or my prayer? فأقبل على صلاته. She continues prayer. فقالت اللهم لا تمته حتى ينظر إلى وجوه المومسات. Oh Lord, not make him to die until he sees the faces of the harlots. You know, this is a mother who is, I would say, genius in her da'wah. She had picked up this supplication for her son, because he knows her son is a person who's a sahik, is to himself and to his ibadah. She picked up that thing because he is not going to pay attention to anything that will divert him from the ibadah. So she said, don't make him to die until he sees the faces of the harlots. Now, to see the faces of the woman is a fitna in itself. But to see the face of a prostitute, a'udhu billah, who will tell you, come on, do it. Maybe the other woman, you know, she will feel shy, you will feel shy. It's going to take a long time if there is zina going to take place. But a harlot, it's very easy. You just without even giving a sign, she'll go ahead until you see the faces of the harlots. And wallahi, this is a very, very strong da'wah. Very strong da'wah from his mother to her son. But he was wrong. The son was wrong, absolutely wrong, not to fulfill the call of his mother. We're going to talk about that inshallah. That is, now we learn from this what is the best way to deal with a father and a mother when he's calling me and I'm praying. The person either is praying obligatory or is praying voluntary. If he's praying obligatory, then number one, he should not cut off his prayer, except in some cases which is necessity. What is a necessity, for example? A person is about to see his child dropping from a cliff while he's praying. Please cut off your prayer and stop that child from burning himself or dropping himself. A person who's been praying, a thief comes and pinches his wallet, he's got his money in it. Please stop praying because he had pinched your mind from the prayer. You're not be able to concentrate. Go and run behind the thief. Straight away, without any hesitation. And then you say, just run behind him. That's as well necessity. As for the person who is praying the fard and his mother calls him, we tell him as well, please, with a gesture, make your father know or your mother that you are praying. How do I do that? By raising up my voice in a recitation I'm doing. For example, I'm reading the Fatiha. So they will know that you are what? Praying. Or Allahu Akbar and loud. They know you are praying. And please, if they call you, if you are in a fard, Fatiha will be sufficing. Please don't start reciting long surahs, because your father and mother are in need of you. So you do it and don't cut off the prayer, because it's not a necessity, unless, as I said, you've seen something which is very important. Otherwise, don't cut it off, but make sure that you tell them that you are in a prayer, so they will know. And number two, don't prolong the prayer. If it's a voluntary prayer, then your father and your mother, either they are tolerant, if they know that they are in a prayer, so you do the same thing as in the fard, you raise up your voice and do it fast, so you continue the prayer. But if you know your father and your mother, they will be enraged if you delay the response for the call. Please cut off your prayer straight away. Don't continue the prayer, otherwise you're going to get a punishment by supplication for your father and your mother. Then you might get it straight away, as Jurayj will get it in a minute, inshallah. We will see how Jurayj had got that. Now, Jurayj, as a person, he wanted to isolate himself from the fitna. And the isolation is permissible in a way that is, if you think mixing up with the people will do you harm. But if mixing with the people is not going to do you harm, and you can be as well able to take their shortcomings from the people, then it's better to go and mix with the people. Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-Mu'min الذي يخالط الناس ويصبر على أذاهم خير من المؤمن الذي لا يخالط الناس ولا يصبر على أذاهم. The believer who is able to mix with the people and be patient on their harms that are produced to him, and of course not being affected, is better than the believer who does not mix up with the people and is not patient regarding the pains and the harm that comes from those people. So to mix up with the people, but if mixing with the people are going to make you fitna, then keep away from the people, and especially at the time of the fitan, and the fitan, that is when the Muslims killing Muslims, we're having a coup, a Muslim killing a Muslim, this person here is making a thawra revolution against a Muslim who is a leader, who is a tyrant. Keep away from that. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Yushiku ahadukum. And the person is about to take his religion. قال يوشك أحدكم أن يكون خير مال يوشك أن يكون خير مال الرجل غنم. The best of the money for the person is to have a sheep that he will go on top of the mountains, اتبع بها شعف الجبال, the mountain, top of the mountains, and مواقع ومواقع القطر, and following the rain, meaning he will keep away from the fitna because he wants to run away with his religion. That took place at the time of the fitna between, for example, the time of the Harra and the time of the Abdullah ibn Zubayr with Al-Hajjaj. We found that Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, he left the Medina and straight away he went away and he isolated himself. And he was told, how can you do such a thing? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the person, there's no hijrah, la hijrah ba'da al-fath. How can you make a hijrah after the conquest of Makkah? How can you leave the city? You go to the Badia, which is the outside, the urban, the outside areas, away from the scholars and away from the people, and the person will be with hard heart if he's in such a situation. Sa'd ibn Waqqas said, why do you deny something which is the Prophet ﷺ said in the time of the fitna? You keep away from the people. Go away, stick to your house, go away from the people, because there's a fitna. A person is about to come to the grave and say to the grave, I wish I'm there instead of you, not to live to see such a fitna. But in the time of the uzla, you need to know the following thing. If you are in a uzla, that is isolation, seclusion, the scholar, they said, Al-uzlatu bighayri ayni al-ilmi zalla wa bighayri zay zuhdi illa. I can't translate that in English. Al-Uzla is made from the following letters. Uzla, Ayn, Zay, Lam, Ta marbuta. Uzla. They said, the scholars, Al-Uzlatu bi ghayri ayn al-ilm, without the ayn which represent ilm. Ilm means knowledge. So the ayn, the seclusion, without the ayn represent without knowledge, is what? You take the ayn, we left with the following letters. Zal, Zay, Lam, Ta marbuta, which is Zalla. Zalla means a mistake. And Al-Uzla, if you take away the Zay from the letters, which is represent the Zuhd. Zuhd means asceticism. The Zuhd, modesty. If you take the Zay, it becomes Illa. Illa means sickness. So you take the Ayn of the knowledge, becomes what? Zalla. If you take the Zay of the Zuhd, becomes what? Illa. So it have to be Uzla, where the person does not, for example, isolate himself from the Fridays. He has to come to the Fridays. He has to come to the A'yad, the Eid prayer. He has to come to the gatherings of the Muslims. He has to be there if the leader called him. But not total uzla. Can't see anybody. I'm not going to talk to anyone. No person, brother, I'm in uzla. That's not a uzla. That's disease. That's a disease. Right, coming back to the hadith. So, فَتَذَكَرَ بَنُوا إِسْرَائِيلَ جُرَيْجًا وَعِبَادَتَهُ. The children of Israel at that time, they were talking about Jurayj and his ibadah. وَكَانَتْ امْرَأَةٌ بَغِيٌّ يُتَمَثَّلُ بِحُسْنِهَا. And there was a harlot, a woman who was a prostitute, that she was so beautiful. When she heard them talking about Jurayj, it is all the time in his ibadah. These people can't stop gossiping. They don't leave the person in his own. He's away, still they talk about it. Subhanallah. He's keeping away from them, they still talk about him. What should he do? Live in the mood? They still talk about it. So the woman, she says here, okay, شِئْتُمْ لَأَفْتِنَنَّ. If you wish, I will make fitna to him. I will make him step down from his ibadah. قال إن شئتم لأفتننه لكم. قال فتعرضت له. So she started now, whenever he goes out to, for example, let's say he wants to defecate or urinate, or wants, for example, to go and buy something for him to eat or something, she will be there showing herself. فتعرضت له. Imagine Khalid, أعوذ بالله, what's she going to show him to make him want? Look at her. قال فلم يلتفت إليها. Got nothing, no business with her. Amen. قال فأتت راعي. Now she gave up, but she did not give up with other people. She gave up with him. She came to a ra'i, shepherd, who used to come to his sawma, to his monastery. فأمكنته من نفسها. She gave him the go ahead, do whatever you like. ووقع عليها, free of charge. He made fornication. I mean, she did not ask him for money. قال فحملت. She got pregnant. All of this being planned. Usually the harlot, they don't get pregnant, do they? They go from one person to another. But she wanted to get pregnant. Why? She wanted to get the promise that she gave to the people. I will make him to suffer. Who's that? Jurayj. قال فوقع عليها فحملت فلما ولدت. When she gave birth, that's 9 months later, she was asked. She still remembers what the promise she gave to the people. She was asked by the king. هو من جريج. Jurayj has done it. That the father, nobody can prove if he's Jurayj or not. There's no DNA at that time. So, now, straight away, فَأَتَوْهُ فَاسْتَنْزَلُوهُ وَهَدَمُوا صَوْمَعَتَهُ. The king had commanded for his sawma, his monastery, to be destroyed, and they brought him down, and they even tied his hand to his neck, and they pulled him, وَجَعَلُوا يَضْرِبُونَهُ, and they used to hit him, and they cursed him. فقال, what's happening? What's شأنكم? What's wrong? قالوا زنيت بهذه البغي. Look. Those people, they know Jurayj, don't they? And Jurayj was a abid, as a worshipper, isn't he? Sheikh. You know what's a sheikh? A woman who's a harlot, prostitute, comes from nowhere. She comes and sings to the king from the first time that he is the one who is the father. All this ibadah, this man did not intercede for him. They never thought that this man, you can't be doing such a thing. He's a abid. Do you know why? Because they're awam. Wal-awamu hawam. I can't translate that in English as well. You know what's awam? Awam from ma'ana. Blindness. The general mass. Isn't the word general mass? The general mass. Hawam means snakes. Venomous snakes. Huh? Laymen. Laymen. Those are the awam. Hawam. Hawam in Arabic. How can you give me another word which is a rhyme, which means snakes? Layman's, snakins. A'udhu billah. Poisonous. Awam. One word from the harlot. You know the harlot is a liar. She said, he is from Jurayj. And all the ibad and that man, he's a worship and the sheikh and he's asking the people and he's got weight, but they will never let go of him. They brought him down, not only that, cursed him and hit him, and they destroyed and demolished his monastery. Allahu Akbar. Amazing how the people straight away they turn from one, and this is what happened, isn't it? In the following, they call it the Rabi' al-Arabi, Kharif al-Arabi, whatever it is, in the Arab lands. How you could twist their minds easily. Subhanallah. From one Jazeera, flip to Arabiya, he changes his mind. Isn't it? Jazeera خلاص قال الله قال رسوله. So عوام هوام من العمى. Now look how they're going to change their mind as well quickly. Quickly. So what you haven't really, you have fornicated. And this woman, she brought the baby and it's yours. فقرأنا الصبي with affirmity, with confidence. Where is the boy? Now imagine, does it come to your mind as a righteous man, you're going to speak to a child who's in the cradle? But تعرف على الله في الرخاء يتعرف عليك في الشدة. Hadeeth. There is no Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the time when you are in luxury. Allah will come to your help in the time of hardship. So if you're in the time of luxury, just remember Allah. Always worship Allah. Allah will not forget you on the time when you need Him. Where is the boy? They brought the boy. He said, okay, let me go and make wudu and make prayer. Call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he made the wudu and he prayed. We learn from this, it is good to make wudu to make dua. So he made the wudu. And they used to make wudu and he made the dua. قال فصلى فلما انصرف. When he went, he came to the child, الصبي. فطعن في بطنه. He poked in his stomach like that. فطعن في بطنه. وقال يا غلام. Boy, من أبوك? Speaking to the child in the cradle. من أبوك? Who's your father? Where is he? قال فلان الراعي. Not just he said the shepherd, but he named him. For example, Ali al-Ra'i, Muhammad al-Ra'i, Ahmad al-Ra'i. He named him such and such person. قال فأقبلوا على جريج يقبلونه ويتمسحون به. Started straight away kissing Jurayj, rubbing Jurayj like that. Look how their minds twisted in 1 second. 1 second, Harlot said, he's from him. They beat him up, destroy him, destroy his monastery, curse him. Now, the boy speaks, oh, holy man you are. Subhanallah, awam ya akhi, awam. They twist their mind quickly. They don't follow proof. There's emotions. Awam. And I'm using this for my own all the time, talking about this sort of coups and all the time. Awam. And that is why if you have a power as an imam to make the awam behind you, wallahi nobody can make a step down from an imam. Imam, please learn from this. If the imam is capable of taking the awam in his power, nobody is able to put you down. Not the admin, not the shura, not anything. Because the awam is with you. So you could direct them the way that you want. And you can make them as a beast. They could be against you or for you. So go and capture the hearts of the awam. Capture them. They very easily can be directed. Because as I said to you, that awam, layman, Jazakallahu khairan for that word. Right. Now, straight away, should we build your monastery from gold? No. From silver? No. Just put it down. Put it up as it was. From mud. قال أعيدوها من طين كما كانت. From mud. This is the qana'ah, satisfaction. You could have asked, I wanted not from gold, from rubies, the most precious diamonds. Because you deserve it. This is a fine for you. No? As it was. From the teen. Now, this is Jurayj for you. His mother, asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that not to make him to die until he sees the faces of the harlots. He smiled. The king asked him, what about that smile? He said, أدركتني دعوة أمي. Supplication of my mother got me. That not to make Jurayj to die unless he sees the faces of the harlots. He is from the top of ultimate of his ibadah to go down from his ibadah to see the face of the harlot. So he smiled. And he knew that he made a mistake. He should have responded to the call of his mother when she called him 3 times. Now, we could learn a lot of issues from that. As I said, it's a great hadith. If I want to talk about the greatness of this hadith, it's going to take me a long time. I'm looking at the time now, 10 to 10. Now, from this as well, we learn that the walad zina, the child of the zina, it's a very important issue, is attributed to the zani, the fornicator. And this is a conflict, a controversial issue amongst the scholars. If a person fornicates with a woman, and the woman produces a child, most of the scholars, they say that that child will be attributed to his mother. I mean, he will carry the name of his mother. So he will be such and such person, and then his father will be the father of his mother. Do you understand that? So let's say his mother, for example, her name is Fatima, the daughter of Ahmad. And the Fatima, the daughter of Ahmad, she fornicated with Ali, or with whatever. I'm not going to say they call these names, the names are holy. Let's say that this woman, she's called Aliya. Okay, and she's the daughter of Haidar. I'm choosing now names as well. So she is the daughter of Haidar, and she fornicated with somebody whose name is, I'm not going to say Hussein al-Hassan because right, Qadim. Qadim is a fornicator. Now in the scholars they say that Qadim, now this child, if he's born, he will carry his name not from Qadim but from Haidar. So he will be, for example, let's say his name is Ali. It will be Ali, the son of Haidar, not the son of Qadim. That's most of the scholars. But from this hadith we could see, that is, the man Jurayj, he asked the boy, who's your father? He said, the fornicator, because the fornicator is his father Qadra, that is by the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how can we reconcile between the scholar's opinion, which is based upon the following hadith, that is, Al-Walad al-Firash wal-Ahir al-Hajar. Al-Walad al-Firash, the child is for the woman, is for the bed. And for the one who had been with fornication, stoned to death, al-Hajar, or that means got nothing. That is in the case if there is somebody to pull that child away. Let's say that he fornicated with a woman, she's married, and there was a child. Now that child, if the father, if the husband, the real husband of that mother, he said it's my child, it will be attributed to him, and that person will get nothing, even though that child may be looking like him. Do you understand me? So if that fornicator fornicated with a woman who is married to somebody, and that person, he said, no, that child belongs to me from my wife, and it's not belonging to that fornicator, even if that child being proved from the DNA that is to be from the fornicator, he still belongs to whom? To the husband. And that is why al-walad al-firash. But if there is no father to claim him, there is no real husband, it's only the fornicator, then we say he will be attributed as the father. It's a very strong opinion, and even few scholars they say it, but very strong opinion, because otherwise the child's lineage will be lost. And how can you, for example, as a fornicator who is with a mother who fornicated, and there's a child there, and then you repent to Allah and you get married to her, and then you're going to tell the child later on, by the way, I'm not your father. What? I look like you, Dad. No, but you know, you came for fornication and not legitimate marriage, so you're not my son. What's the position of your son is going to be? He might leave the house and never sees you. He might go to drugs. True or not? You hide that fact from him, and he's your son. Because nobody said that he is the son of somebody else. There was no husband for that mother who fornicated at that time. So you are the father, and he will be attributed to you, and he will carry your name. Because as I said, وَوَلِدُهُ قَدَرًا. Now coming back to the hadith, the third child. قال وبينما صبي يرضع. This is the third son. بينما صبي يرضع. While the child was suckling from his mother. فمر رجل راكب على دابة فارهة وشارة حسنة. A man was on top of a very nice mount and also dressed up nicely, looking nicely. فقالت أمه, his mother, she said while she's nursing the baby, the child, اللهم اجعل ابني مثل هذا. Oh Allah, make my son like him. فترك الثدي, he left the breast. وأقبل إليه ينظر, and he looked at that man whom his mother, she said, oh Allah, make my son like him. فنظر إليه فقال اللهم لا تجعلني مثله. Oh Lord, don't make me like him. ثم أقبل على ثديه فجعل يرتضع. Then he went back to the suckling of his mother. قال أبو هريرة فكأني أنظر إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو يحكي ارتضاعه بإصبعه السبابة في فمه يجعل فجعل يمصها. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said like the following. He said, as the boy looked at that man, whom the mother said, oh Allah, make my son like him, he looked at him, oh Allah, don't make me like him. And then he went back to the suckling, and the person is like, I say suckling. Then the mother, قال, there is another woman, قال ومروا بجارية, and then they passed by a girl. وهم يضربون, people, they were beating her up. يقولون زانيتي سرقتي, they used to say, you have fornicated, you have stolen, you are a thief. وهي تقول حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل, my Lord is my sufficient and he is the best to rely upon, depend upon. فقالت أمه اللهم لا تجعل ابني مثلها. Mother, she said, no, oh Allah, don't make my son to be like her. So the boy فترك الرضاع ونظر إليها فقال اللهم اجعلني مثلها. So he looked at the woman, the girl said, oh Allah, make me like her. Then he went back to the suckling. فهناك تراجع الحديث. Now they started, the mother speaking to the child and the child speaking to the mother. Mother speaking to her own child who's in the cradle. She knows he can't speak in the cradle, but there must be what? A miracle. فتراجع الحديث. فقالت, so she said, مر رجل حسن الهيئة فقلت اللهم اجعل ابني مثله. I said, oh Allah, make my son like him. فقلت, you said as a child, my son, اللهم لا تجعلني مثله. You said, don't make me, oh Allah, like him. ومر بها الأمة, and then we passed by this girl who is a slave, where they were hitting and beating her up, the slave, and you said, you have fornicated, you have stolen, so you're a thief. So I said, oh Allah, don't make my son like her. So you said, oh Allah, make me like her. So the boy, he had said, look, that child is in the cradle, he's got an understanding like us and better. قال إن ذاك الرجل كان جبارا. And man, he was a tyrant. فقلت اللهم لا تجعلني مثله. Said, I said, oh my Lord, don't make me like him as a tyrant person. وإن هذه يقولون لها زنيتي. And this girl, the slave, used to say that you have fornicated and you have stolen. ولم تزني ولم تسرق. She did not fornicate, nor she did steal. فقلت اللهم اجعلني مثلها. So I said, oh Allah, make me like her, as a person who did not steal, nor she hadn't fornicated. So we understand also from this hadith that the boy had spoken in the cradle, and he as well had an understanding of an adult, and this is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's capability. And this is the end of the finishing of the hadith, which is hadith Jurayj. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the ones who pay heed. Remember that the parents, their shafaqah, their rahmah can be removed quickly. The mother of Jurayj, straight away, as soon as she did not respond to her, the mercy that she had to her son disappeared. Oh Allah, don't make Jurayj to die until he sees the faces of the harlots. Where's the mercy? It's gone. So don't you ever think, oh, my mother and my father will never supplicate against me. No, they will do so if you push them to the limits. If you push them to the limits, you start insulting them, talking to them, you might have a supplication that will make you never be making success. You will get unsuccessful for the rest of your life. If your father or your mother were crying because of you being undutiful to them, fear Allah. You will lie, you will never have a very good life. Don't raise your voice. Don't even look at them with a look which makes a sign of being scorning at them. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. You always be there at their service. You always sit and anticipate what they want. Don't just wait for them to ask you. Straight away. So the mother is about to ride in the car. Mother, can I help you to get in the car? Straight away, you don't anticipate, my dear son, come on, help me to get in the car. Don't wait for that. Say, mother, can I help you to get in the car? And look at mother, Allah yarda alayk. May Allah be pleased with you. Just supplication like this and you'll be successful. Remember Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said to that killer, as a repentance, do you have a mother? Yes. Be righteous to her. Khalas. That will wipe off the sin, which is killing. So be nice to your father and your mother. And that's why the chapter of it. The chapter is to look after your father, to look after your mother and be dutiful to them. And if you do so, then your children will be in turn doing the same to you. But if you are bad to your father and your mother, my friend, he's seen with his own eyes. The children were beating their father up. But when he looked, he was smiling. He said, I know why it's happening. Because he's an old man, he used to hit his father. This old man used to hit his father. Allah was treating him with the same, that his children is hitting him. He was smiling. He told me that. He said, well, I've seen him, wallahi, they were boxing him, punching him. But I looked at smile because he used to punch his father when he was young. Allah forbid him to be treated the same way. Like, we'll stop here. We'll have questions and answers, inshallah. Hadeeth. Can we do the other hadith, inshallah, as well? Yeah? Jazakallahu khairan. Wallahi, boy is eager to learn. Let's go to the chapter. Go ahead. Because of him. Yalla, bismillah. Chapter Babu Ard al-Islam ala al-Umm al-Nasraniyya. Na'am.
Chapter 18. Offering Islam to a Christian mother. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh said, there is no one, be he a Jew or a Christian, who will not love me on hearing of me. I wanted my mother to become a Muslim, but she refused. I told her about it and she still refused. I went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, make supplication to Allah for her. He did so and I went to her. She was behind the closed door. She said, Abu Hurairah, I have become Muslim. I informed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, make supplication to Allah for me and my mother. He said, Allah, make people love your servant Abu Hurairah and his mother.
Right. The hadith was narrated as well with a wider narration in other books, which says that nobody hears about me or my mother, not just myself, me or my mother, from anyone except that he would love me. Now he says, لا سمع بي أحد يهودي ولا نصراني, Christian or a Jew, that he hears about me, he will love me. Now I want to understand the link of this hadith with the chapter title. Chapter title says, that is, عرض الإسلام على الأم النصرانية, that is to present Islam to a mother who's Christian. What is the link? The mother of Abu Hurairah is Christian. And then she used to say something bad about the Prophet ﷺ. But she's been taught by her religion to insult the Prophet ﷺ. So those people are ignorant. And that is why we tell the people to present the reality of Muhammad ﷺ to those people. So many people, they don't know. They're being given this portrayed sort of image of the Prophet of Allah is to be a terrorist. And that's the caricature that's been drawn by that person. A'udhu billah. Prophet of Allah with a turban with rockets coming out of it. A'udhu billah. But when they know that he's a mercy gift to mankind, straight away they will change their mind. So we need to present your information in the best of ways. So he said, now, why every Christian and Jew, once he hears about Abu Hurairah, he will love him. My mother, I wanted to become a Muslim. And every person who is a Muslim, he wants his mother. She's like, when a Muslim, he wants her to become a Muslim. But she refuses. I used to cry every time she says something against the Prophet ﷺ. So I came to the Prophet of Allah to make a supplication to me. So we learn as well that supplication is a weapon where the Muslims are unaware of the strength of it. Supplication. You could go to a righteous man and ask him if you think he's righteous. So make supplication to me, brother. So the person knows who you are. Not these text messages to say to everyone, please make a dua for such and such person. You don't know who's that person. It doesn't work. We don't know that person. You come to him, please make dua to me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes me successful, or may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make my father and mother to be a Muslim. So he said, I came to him And he made a supplication. And then I came to the house. وَقَدْ أَجَافَتْ عَلَيْهِ الْبَابِ. She locked the door. Usually he does not lock the door. So she said, she wanted to come. She said, hold on. And actually what she was doing, she was having a ghusl, a wash, which we call it the spiritual wash. Not the physical wash, the spiritual wash. She's washing herself from the dirt of, or the filth of, blasphemy and kufr. As soon as she came to the shower, she said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Prophet, Abu Hurairah jumping up and down. Straight away he goes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My mother, she embraced Islam, my mother, she embraced Islam. Messenger of Allah, make Allah, call Allah Azza wa Jal for me and my mother, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us people who are dear to the people, very close to the people. Prophet sallallahu said, Allahumma, make Abu Hurairah and his mother to be very dear to each believer. So he said, Abu Hurairah, since that dua, not a single believer hears about me or my mother except that he would love us. So a person who does not love Abu Hurairah or his mother, he is not a believer. Those that are awful, no believers. They could be Muslims, but deviant, and they could be kuffar as well, some of them. But believers, proper believer, he would love Abu Hurairah. How come you love Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu? Abu Hurairah, even his name is nice. Been given to him by the Prophet of Allah, because every time he's in with it, only a kitten, little kitten. Abu Hurairah, Abu Hurairah, Abu Hurairah. Nice, even nice name. He was thin guy, thin person. Radiallahu anhu ardah. Right, and this is the end of the chapter that we could discuss. Inshallah, in 2 weeks' time, we'll discuss the chapter Babu Birr al-Walidayni ba'da mawtihim, and that is to be righteous to the parents after their death. If any questions about what we have heard, if we have an answer, we'll give. Otherwise, we'll say Allah Ta'ala. Now, تفضل يا عبد الأحد.
I had some people.
نعم.
I had one speaker interpreted the Hadeeth, but the Thai will speak as to be like.
What about the what?
The Thai will speak.
Yeah.
Is to be like maybe interpret as like mobile phone and stuff like that. How do you interpret Hadeeth? Is he?
Any person interpreting the Thai speaking to you as the phone, he has no knowledge whatsoever. He's not a da'iyah, don't listen even to him. Any person interpret, for example, Dajjal to be America, don't listen to him. Those people are, we don't have really a thigh is a thigh. The wolf, what is the wolf then? Rolls Royce? And the cow? What, Porsche? What are you going to interpret it? Cow is the cow, and the wolf is the wolf, and the thigh is the thigh. It's obvious. Not the mobile. The mobile could be in your pocket. It could be in your hand. Not the mobile speaking. Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. These people have no strong belief in the heart that Allah will make them their thigh to speak. Prophet ﷺ, he said, صِنْفَانِ مِنَ النَّاسِ لَمْ أَرَهُمَا قَطْ. Two kinds of people that I haven't seen them yet. نِسَاءٌ كَاسِيَاتٌ عَارِيَاتٌ. Women who are dressed but not dressed. مَائِلَاتٌ مُمِلَاتٌ. They are swaying and they're making the people to be tempted. رُؤُسُهُنَّ كَأَسْنِمَةِ الْبُخْتِ الْمَائِلَةِ. Their head is like the hump of a camel going from one side to another. We've seen them, haven't we? Prophet Allah didn't see them. We've seen them. Oh, like a camel. In our countries now, what do you call it now? Cuckoo. عرفت انت الكوكو. Because I wanted to know, what is that cuckoo? Cuckoo is something that the woman, she puts and makes her head like a wheel, tie, you know the tie? She thinks that she's beautiful. Wallah, she looks ugly. Wallahi. So one of the sisters, she was selling a cloth from one of the women, she went to sell it. I said, my dear daughter, what are you doing? I mean, she's a woman, she's an adult. I said, what are you doing? I mean, what is this? Cuckoo. I said, well, what do you think? You look beautiful. You look ugly with this. And she was shying. Why do you do this? Don't you know the hadith of the Prophet? She knows the hadith of the Prophet. So what? Also, that they will not enter paradise, they will not even smell the fragrance of paradise. How can you do like this? Then the second one is people who are hitting the people with what? With the aswat, with the whipping the lashes. The person who is as well hitting the people with the lashes. Prophet ﷺ, he talked about as well that the person will be talking to the adbati sawtih, that is to the end of his whip. Some people interpret that Wi-Fi, cordless, the Wi-Fi, CB radio. Ooh, he's talking to the antenna, the antenna? Adbati sawtih. Subhanallah, ya akhi, subhanallah. We believe that those things will take place. On the day of resurrection, before the day of resurrection, the stone will speak. Ya Abdullah, such and such person behind me, come and kill him. Yes, the stone will speak. Do you believe it or not? So what does he interpret the stone now? Radio? Or the TV? So the TV going to speak out. Oh, Abdullah. No, it's a stone, proper stone. He will speak up. Except for the tree of the what? Gharqad. Have you seen the gharqad? Sheikh Google will help you. Put gharqad. And it's been planted a lot. In Israel. They called Israel. Oh, they are preparing their homework. You're not. They know and they believe. Lots of it there. غرقد فإنه من شجرهم. It's from their trees. Nah.
Assalamu alaikum. The Christians always associate Maryam with Joseph. Who is Joseph in Islam? Does he play a part in Maryam's life, or is he...
Joseph, Yusuf al-Najjar has nothing in the house of Islam. Is that okay? Nothing. We don't know anything about this Yusuf al-Najjar. Joseph is there, Joseph. We don't have Joseph. Okay? We don't have that Joseph. We have Zachariah, we have Maryam, not Joseph. Go ahead.
Are you allowed to shout at your relative if they speak badly of you? Also in Al-Adab Al-Mufrad, it says you're not allowed to kiss your child.
Right, we haven't got to that stage where we're going to kiss the child. No, you could kiss the child. Who said you can't kiss the child? Prophet ﷺ, he said to that man who does not kiss the children, he said, I got 10, I don't kiss my children. He said, well, I don't know what troubles you. What's the problem with you if Allah had removed the mercy from your heart? He sees the Prophet of Allah kissing his child. The kissing of the child is not allowed, the one is from the mouth. You don't kiss the child from the mouth. You kiss him in the cheek, kiss him in the hair. You don't kiss him from the mouth, okay? Because this is not the kissing from the proper kissing, right? Now, going back to except if it's your wife. That's no problem.
First part.
I'm talking about your own child.
Yeah. The first part was...
Hang on a second, ya akhi. I love it. So, the second question regarding that paper.
Are you allowed to shout at your relative?
Okay, shout at your relatives. Shout at your relatives, whether it's a relative or not a relative, shouting at him, there's a reason behind this. So if he is, for example, your father and your mother, you're not allowed to shout in any case. Apart from that, your brother, but it depends on who's older or younger. If he's older, you should not do so. You should respect the older. Always. The elders, be respected. If he's the same age, then you shout according to what happens. So I can't really say that you don't shout. Sometimes you need to shout to make him hear. Sometimes you need to shout to make, for example, to make him disciplined. So I don't know. I can't really answer this question like that. So it has to be a scenario where we could really answer the question. Now, let's go to the problem. Prophet ﷺ, he licked Al-Hasan in his tongue. But where did you hear this narration from? Or you heard it from, where did you hear it? From the Shia or? Yeah, okay, khair inshallah. Huh?
I don't listen to Shia.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, where did you hear it from?
No, this is what I came across it.
Yeah, alright, khair inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ, he saw even Usama was injured, and he was as well annoyed with Aisha radiallahu anha and the rest of the wives. He said if he was a little girl, he would look after him and make him look presentable to get married. So he came and he sucked his injury. But to suck Al-Hasan from his mouth and to suck Al-Husayn, we don't have an authentic narration. That's why I asked you, where did you read it? So we could really look at the authenticity of it. But the kissing of the children, especially if the child even grows up, it goes more prohibited to kiss him in the mouth. So the kiss in the mouth from the outside, but to kiss the mouth we're talking about to lick the lip and so on and so forth. That is to do with, because you see, most of such kisses are accompanied with lust. And kissing the child with lust is haram. You understand me? So if the lust is not there, we could go tolerant, because some of the scholars said it's okay. But usually it's the case when the child is being kissed. And I'm talking about the child who's 3-4 years old. You kiss him from the mouth and start sucking the lip. That will be accompanied with the lust, and the shaitan is there. And that is why we say, be careful from that. And our scholars say it's not really allowed. Now, hardly can hear me. I don't know what to do. Oh. Hello.
Downstairs. Downstairs.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do. They've been giving me the microphones, and I'm speaking to the microphone.
Yeah. The speaker downstairs.
I can't get in.
Okay, the speaker downstairs, but sisters, can you do something to the speakers?
The one in our room. You know the kitchen. That ha.
Yeah.
Connect them.
Can you just do it yourself? Go ahead. It's better than. Go ahead. Tfadal. Now,
What would you suggest to do if a revert sister questions Islam as she feels that Islam is a male-orientated religion, disrespects women, objectifies them, e.g. kunya, wife of so-and-so, and that there is no punishment against rape, fornication, physical abuse against women in the Sharia, etc.?
that's absolutely a lie. First of all, we tell this woman, she comes from the West, we say that actually it's the West who rips the woman from her name. As soon as she marries somebody, if she's, for example, says Samantha Fox, married to Samantha, Sam, whatever his name, she will become Samantha Jones. But in Islam, she's called Fatima bint Ali, married to, for example, Ali ibn Abi Talib, she's still Fatima bint Ali. You understand me? Her name will be there. And any person who tries to change the name of his wife to carry the husband is imitating those who are the disbelievers. The Islam women, she stays in her name. So we tell her, you're wrong. As Muslim, we keep the identity of a woman. Where you, the West, rip her name and she becomes the property of her husband. That's number one. Number two, she said, question is, that it is male oriented, and she said as well.
Disrespectful woman objectifies them, kunya, wife.
Yeah, and then?
And then it says, and there is no punishment against rape.
Who said there's going to be punishment against rape? You know, the Islam punishes the man, does not punishes the woman more than... You know, I tell you what. This companion, Salamat ibn Sakhr al-Biyad, he comes to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, halaktu ya Rasul. I've had it. What? He said, in the month of Ramadan, something exposed from the leg and the thigh of my wife. I couldn't hold myself, I jumped. قال فوثبت عليه. So after that, so the Prophet ﷺ, he says, okay, free a neck, slave. I don't own any slave except for myself. Right? Then after that he said to him, fast 60 days. Messenger of Allah, 30 days I couldn't hold myself. You want me to fast 60 days? I can't. And he said to him, okay, then feed 60 people. Wallahi, Messenger of Allah, between the two members of Medina, there's nobody poorer than me. He laughed, and then he said, okay, wait until the sadaqah she came, and then came the sadaqah to him, and he said to him, take this and give your family and give the poor people. And he commanded him to do what? To fast a day. There is no mentioning for the women. The woman, she does not do the expiation. I'm just saying, who is Islam? Is biased with the man or against the man? The woman, there was no punishment for her. He didn't ask the Prophet about to free a slave, not to fast 60 days. And she could be the reason she tempted him. She could have told him, come on. And she exposed her leg. And he jumped. He couldn't hold himself. So here we say that the man he's under the punishment more than the woman. So we tell the brothers to fight back and to say, the sisters, that's not true. Right. In Udhiyah, which is better? To slaughter the male sheep or the female sheep? Male. So we're slaughtering the male, we're saving the female. So we are with the females. Even in the sheep and the animals, we are biased against the men. And the animals. The female will spare them and the male will slaughter them. So we tell her, you're wrong, dear sister. And Allah said, those people had it from the media. The media portrayed a different picture, an image of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now,
is it permitted to wear kahl outside for women?
is it permitted to wear kuhl outside for the women? I would say that the kuhl is from the zina al-zahira. And the kuhl, if it is not going to be a fitna for the men, I don't see any problem to present the women for the kuhl because it's from the zina al-zahira. But some women, you know, with even her eyes without the kuhl, they are a fitna. And we advise the sisters to put the niqab not as an obligation, but to advise them to put it as a protection. And this protection is for her and for the men. So the niqab may be even better the burqa, because the niqab shows one eye or two eyes, but the burqa shows nothing. That means the burqa is a veil, proper veil that goes into the face. So remember, النظرة سهم من سهام الشيطان. The one look is an arrow from the arrow of shaitan. And I think we've got 1 minute before the adhan. Yes?
Sorry, can you explain the hadith that Iman wears that from just like the clothes, and how can you remove Iman if your Iman wear down? Iman wears that just like clothes.
Oh, this is a long you know, we want a question which is simple. But I want a question we're going to explain about now, the Iman of the Kufr. Now, 1 minute, come on again.
Is there any exception for a woman to travel to another country in order to seek knowledge without a mahram?
It's not al-ghaya la tubarrir al-wasila. The goals does not justify the means. This is, we have to know this for a fact. So if we need, for example, a doctor to treat our ladies, doctor female to treat our ladies, so we go and make this lady to, for example, have education as a doctor in a free mixing environment, it's haram. Remember, the goals does not justify the means. So if that sister, she wants to travel without a mahram, it is not allowed except in one case. That is, the knowledge that she's seeking is necessary for her religion. She wants to learn how to pray. And there was no mahram with her. Or a woman, she wanted to migrate from one land to another. That is from the land of Kufr to the land of Islam. And she had no mahram as the Prophet ﷺ, and as Allah the Almighty, when he talked about the women migrating from Mecca to Medina without a mahram, and the Prophet ﷺ is being asked to accept their pledge for Islam and not to return them as according to the truce of Al-Hudaybiyah, where the men, they had to be returned, because the truce of Al-Hudaybiyah said to be returned, for the women to accept their pledge. So if the woman wants to migrate to a Muslim land and she has no mahram and she couldn't get a husband, then it's allowed for her to make the migration. Same thing with seeking the knowledge. If the knowledge is necessary and she has no mahram to travel with, we say to her, then minimize at least the chance and the vulnerability of you being, for example, stabbed or maybe raped. You could go with companions of women, but remember, you need to have a mahram if there is one. Otherwise, Allah Ta'ala. Now, we'll stop here, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
الله خير.